This is the extraordinary process, and it has a result. Nobody sees it yet, especially not in the US, but we in Europe see it, and it is slowly shaping up. Is Trump conscious? Did he do this in order to make Europe?
What strategic value does Europe hold for the USA today? Welcome, I'm Yannick, your host, and now joining me, Edouard Prisse. Edouard Prisse is an independent thinker from the Netherlands and joins me now. What strategic value does Europe hold for the USA today? Welcome back, Edouard Prisse, to the show. It's such a blessing.
Well, the extraordinary thing which is happening now, it's a process, and we are now just before the halfway of a very interesting process, which is this. Donald Trump has, in the last 3 years, said many bad things about Europe, and he has thought negatively about Europe. And at the same time, and now comes the extraordinary thing, he has said he would take away the American protection in NATO of Europe. And the consequence of that is that Europeans have realized they must now hold up their pants themselves. In other words, what Trump has just done over the last few years, and which by now begins to have an extraordinary result, is that he is making Europe stronger by being negative, which is an extraordinary sequence of events and of causes to effects. He said, I take away my protection. If there is an attack, I will not protect you like NATO says it should. And the reaction of the European countries is, then we'll bloody well see to it that we get stronger. And so what the result of what Trump has done and what is happening now is that from a unipolar world where the US was clearly the boss, he is creating, by what he has done, Trump, a bipolar world where Europe is getting stronger and stronger and trying to stand up next to the US. But this extraordinary thing is, this is happening. Europe is right now, morally and with its willpower, which it didn't have for many decades. Now, Europe is really shaping up morally, politically together with armaments and making their armies stronger step by step. So Trump, by having been negative, is creating a bipolar world where Europe will become, in the next coming years, and it is really happening now, a good partner of the US, which is quite extraordinary if you see how it happened. But it is happening. And in this happening, there is one major weakness of Europe that we Europeans still have to get right, which is, as you probably know, all the member countries of the European Union have the right of veto over decisions that are being made in Brussels, which is, of course, which has as a consequence that you cannot govern if one of the little countries, let's say Hungary, which has done it recently, can say, I veto this, and then something may not happen because he has the right to veto. That means actually Europe right now, with these vetoes existing, is almost ungovernable. That is now in the process of going to be changed as well. So you will see all these things happening in the years and months and years to come. But the process is not yet known in the US, and it is already known and felt in Europe. We are And it is quite extraordinary because it is as a reaction to Trump having been negative, we are shaping up. And so what I'm predicting here is very clearly in this process is already going. It is, of course, a political, a mental, a will process of does Europe have the will? Does the European leaders together have the will? One, to step up, two, to do it together, three, not to fight amongst each other. And all the answers to these questions for the moment are yes. It is going well. And Brussels, as much as it can, with the veto still in place right now, is doing rather well. So what I'm conveying to you and your readers today, this process is going on. Look at it. It will, I would guess we need another 2 years to really show how strong we are becoming. But we are. And the funny thing is, when I read the press in the US, the writers, the authors, the press don't yet see that. But it is there. That is the message that I give today.
What really led up to this issue that Europe didn't take its security seriously enough anymore? What was it that led to this disarmament over the past few decades?
Well, as you know, and as Trump has been angry about correctly, Europe has been sitting back and not arming itself militarily because it thought NATO is protected by America, we don't have to do anything. That is a very weakly character attitude, which Europe really had. We were comfortably sitting back, we don't have to do anything. And as you know, there is a very famous Roman Latin language little sentence which says, si vis pacem para bellum, which means if you want peace, prepare for war. Then you get peace. And Europe didn't heed that. We were not preparing for war, which means that we were not getting peace, which means that, as we all know, Russia invaded Ukraine because Russia thought they are not prepared for war, we can get them. So we have been both weak, stupid, and we got the consequence. The Ukrainian war right now is a consequence. You know that Russia still tries to grab the Ukraine. And in this process, which I'm discussing with you, that we are beginning to shape up, right now, the Ukraine, with our money, with our help from Germany, help from the European Commission, is shaping up its own drone manufacturing industry, and this industry in the Ukraine is becoming bright and brilliant and is beginning to defeat Russia. Now, this is also starting. So your question was, where does it come from? It comes from the situation where everybody had confidence in America protecting us by NATO. And it is stepping out of this situation because Trump said, I don't protect. And so I want to repeat it because one has to say things a few times before they really pass into an audience. Trump, by stopping his help and his promise, and the promise of the US, we will help you when there's trouble, is creating the willpower in Europe to do things. This is the extraordinary process, and it has a result. Nobody sees it yet, especially not in the US, but we in Europe see it, and it is slowly shaping up. Let me give a little example. When you all know the very famous Oval Room conversation between Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, and Trump of about a year ago, where Zelensky held up against Trump. Everybody remembers that. The day after that, we had all seen that on television, the day after that, the woman in Europe who is now responsible for foreign affairs in the European Union, said that means about this way that Zelensky held up against Trump.
Von der Leyen, right?
Yes, exactly. She said it means Europe now needs to be a bipolar partner of the US. So this is really beginning now, already 2 years ago. In our minds in Europe, we are doing exactly the opposite of what Trump was angry about. And what one really doesn't know, is Trump conscious? Did he do this in order to make Europe? I'm not sure, nobody knows it, but he does it. He has done it. And right now, being more and more negative about Europe, and we are not helping him with Iran, which is, of course, the right thing not to do, helping him with Iran. His negativeness in response to us, Europe, helps us being strong. This is the process I wanted to lay before you today, Yannick, because it speaks about a process that is now there and is shaping the next 2 years.
How does, when we look in the future, how does future alliance between the US and Europe look like according to you in the next 5 to 10 years?
Trump has done something with Europe, which I've just explained, which seems anyway irreversible. Europe is shaping up. That means that in the next 2, 3, 4 years, the US will see next to it a strong Europe. And since we are both the West and we are both together competing with China, which is the major power struggle in the world and in the future, it is, in my eyes, inevitable that a future president, because there will be one, either soon or maybe a bit later, it is inevitable that already maybe Trump himself, but certainly the next president will see, I have to work together with Europe, and Europe will see it too. They want together with the US as well. This is going to happen. There will be an excellent alliance in the future lying ready for us to both play our roles in. And since in the perception of Europe still is in the US, Europe is weak. And since this process, which I'm telling you, is on the way, the fascinating thing is, first of all, that I can announce it and I can tell you clearly this is really happening. The second thing is, the answer to your question, what will happen? There will be an excellent alliance between those two forces. And the funny thing is, a weakness right now of the US is helping that as well. That weakness is, of course, that Trump and the US by him has just, and I talked about that last time with you a week ago, has terribly lost face in front of Iran because, as I repeat it, Trump said we will destroy them in 5 days, and 2 months later they are still shooting at us. This weakness, this loss of face of Trump, which is there, will help shape the equilibrium between Europe and the US. And I think it is fascinating because by now, as I say, and it is of course my own opinion and it is what I see, this process is inevitable. And it is fun, Yannick.
Edouard Prisse, an independent thinker from the Netherlands, thank you so much for your assessment, as always.
Great pleasure, Yannick. See you next time.
Edouard Prisse. That's why knowledge matters. Make your life a masterpiece. Visit now programs.d-ykm.com.